Hey everyone, welcome back. Today we're diving deep into Jina CLIP v2.
Ooh, exciting.
It is right. This is all about AI models that connect images and text descriptions.
So, like, if you want to search for a picture just by, like, describing it?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's the kind of power we're talking about.
Wild.
We've got some great source material today, 2 academic papers and a blog post all about this Jina CLIP v2. Its development, the whole 9 yards.
Yeah, and let me tell you, it's making waves. Seriously.
Before we get into all that, can you give us a quick overview of what Jina CLIP v2 even is? Like, how is it different from the original Jina CLIP?
Okay, so Jina CLIP v2, it's a big step up from the first one. It's a way bigger model. It's got like 0.9 billion parameters.
0.9 billion, wow.
Yeah, you can think of those as like the connectors in its brain, so it can really like understand information more deeply.
Okay, I get it. Bigger brain. But what's that mean for how it actually, works?
So one of the key things is it uses a dual encoder setup.
Dual encoder, okay.
Which basically means it has one part that's like super good at understanding text and another part that's all about images.
Ah, so like 2 detectives working on a case.
Exactly. One's looking for clues in the words, the other's checking out the visuals.
Clever.
And that dual encoder thing is what lets it connect those 2 worlds, text and images, so well.
Cool, so what's handling the text side in Jina CLIP v2?
So for text, they're using Jina XLM Roberta, and get this.
Yeah.
It can understand 89 different languages.
Whoa, 89. That's insane. This isn't just for English speakers then. It's like global.
Truly global AI.
Amazing. What about the image side? What's different there compared to the first version?
Okay, so for images, they're using EVA 02L14, and one of the biggest changes is the resolution it can handle. So Jina CLIP v1, that was stuck with like 224 by 224 pixel images, but V2, this thing can work with 512 by 512.
Whoa, so like going from like standard definition to high def.
Exactly. So much more detail now, way more nuanced, especially important for like infographics or documents with lots of text and graphic.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, so we got the bigger brain, the multilingual skills, and now high def vision. Anything else they improved in Jina CLIP v2?
Oh, there's more. There's this thing called matryoshka representation.
Matryoshka. Like those Russian nesting dolls.
Yeah, that's a good way to think about it.
Okay.
So basically it means the model's output, the embedding vectors, they can be like compressed without losing much information, like shrinking a file down but keeping all the important stuff.
Okay, why is that important?
Well, think about searching for images on your phone. If the files are huge, it takes forever to load.
Yeah, right.
With these matryoshka representations, searches are way faster, storage is more efficient, especially on devices with limited memory.
Oh, so it's more powerful and more efficient.
Yeah.
Nice.
Now, the papers and that blog post, they go deep into the training process. It's pretty fascinating.
Yeah, they do. Can you give us the high-level overview? Like, how did they teach this model to be so good?
Okay, so they used a multi-stage approach, kind of like taking a student through different levels of education,
Yeah.
First, massive data sets of text and image pairs, teaching the model to connect text and images, like learning the alphabet and grammar before writing essays.
Start with the basics.
Exactly. Then stage 2, longer captions, some actually created by another AI, expanding that vocabulary and understanding.
Oh, wow. AI teaching AI.
Right. But there's a final stage to really push it. Hard negatives.
Hard negatives.
Yeah, basically examples that are like designed to be tricky, to really challenge the model's text encoder, like a tough exam to test its skills.
Makes sense. So after all that, Jina's CLIP v2 is ready for the real world. How does it actually perform?
Oh, it performs well, especially in cross-modal retrieval, particularly on those image-to-text tasks.
Image to text. So like I describe something and it finds the image.
Yeah, it blows other models out of the water, even some designed specifically for multiple languages.
Okay, so Jina CLIP v2 is the way to go if I want to find an image based on a text description.
Yeah.
And it can do this in like a bunch of languages.
Absolutely. We can actually look at something called recall at 5 scores. Basically, it measures how often the model finds the right answer in the top 5 results.
Gotcha. So higher score means it's better at finding what you're looking for.
Right. On the cross-modal 3600 dataset, which covers 36 languages, it's getting over 80% for both text-to-image and image-to-text retrieval.
80%. That's really impressive.
It is. Now, what about tasks that don't involve images? Can it handle just text?
Yeah, good question.
Well, remember how it shares that text encoder with Jina Embeddings-v3? That one's all about text.
Right.
So on this benchmark, the MTEB, it's almost as good as Jina Embeddings-v3, which is specifically designed for text.
So it's like a multi-talented athlete, good at everything.
Right.
Can you break down this MTEB thing, though? Why are those scores so impressive?
Okay, so the MTEB benchmark, it's like an obstacle course for these text embedding models. Tests how well they get semantic similarity, ranking search results, all that. Metrics like NDCG at 10 and Spearman correlation, basically measuring how well they understand relationships between different pieces of text.
So higher scores mean like better understanding of language and more accurate results.
Exactly. And Jina CLIP v2 is getting really good scores, even though it's not just about text.
Pretty impressive.
Yeah.
One more area I wanted to touch on, visual document retrieval.
Yeah.
You said Jina CLIP v2 really shines there.
Oh, yeah. This is where its ability to handle complex visuals, those high-res images, really comes in. The Vidor benchmark, it's designed to test how well a model understands documents with images, text, tables, graphs, all that.
Wow, like understanding a research paper or something.
Yeah, way more than just a simple photo.
Yeah.
And Jina CLIP v2, it crushes it. Outperforms older versions and other models.
By a lot.
Significantly. It gets an average NDCG at 5 score of over 52%, which means it's really good at extracting meaning from these really visually rich documents.
Okay, so we've covered the basics, how it works, how it's different, how it performs. There's so much more to unpack here, though.
Oh, yeah, we're just getting started.
Let's dive into some of the interesting research findings and see what they tell us about Jina CLIP and the future of, like, this whole multimodal AI thing.
Sounds good to me. One thing that stood out to me in the research was, like, how much they focused on image resolution.
Oh, yeah, I remember reading about that.
Like, they actually did experiments to figure out how much detail the model needs.
So they didn't just assume, like, higher is always better.
Right, they actually tested it.
Right.
They started training it with, like, lower resolution images, then gradually increased it.
Yeah.
And get this. When they jumped from 224 by 224 pixels to 384 by 384, huge performance jump.
Like the model could suddenly see clearly.
Exactly. But then they found that going beyond 512 by 512 didn't really help much, and it started getting really expensive computationally.
Yeah, makes sense. Got balanced performance and efficiency, right?
Right, so 512 by 512, that's the sweet spot for Jina CLIP v2.
Okay. Now, they also talked about this thing, unified batch training versus multitask learning.
Oh, yeah.
And they ended up going with multitask learning.
They did.
Can you unpack that for us? Like, what are those things?
Okay, so remember how Jina CLIP v2 has those separate encoders for text and images?
Mm-hmm.
Well, unified batch, you just train it by throwing all the text-image pairs and text pairs together all in one big batch.
Seems simpler, right? Why not do it that way?
You'd think so, but it didn't actually work that well, especially for tasks that used both text and images.
Why is that?
Researchers think it's because, like, images and text are just different. They contain different kinds of information.
Yeah, okay.
Images have all those visual details. Text is more, like, abstract and conceptual.
So, like trying to teach someone to paint and write poetry at the same time using the same instructions?
Yeah, exactly. Mixing them together in one big batch might actually confuse the model.
Makes sense.
So that's why they went with multitask learning for Jina CLIP v2. It's like having separate lessons for painting and poetry. Train the model on each type of data separately, in different batches.
So it can learn more effectively from each one.
Right, and the results show it works. Jina CLIP v2's awesome at both cross-modal and text-only tasks.
Cool. Before we move on, want to circle back to those Matryoshka representations?
Oh yeah, those are important.
They're key to why Jina CLIP v2 is so efficient and powerful, right? Remind us how they work.
Okay, so the idea is to train the model so it can prioritize the most important information in its embeddings.
Okay.
Like packing a suitcase, you only bring the essentials.
I like that analogy.
So even with a smaller suitcase, or in this case, a compressed embedding, the model can still do its thing.
So they made the embeddings smaller.
Yeah, they found they could shrink them by 75% without really losing performance.
Wow, 75%. That's a lot.
It is, and it makes a huge difference for efficiency. Like if you're searching a massive database of images, with smaller embeddings, the search is way faster, storage is easier, especially on devices that don't have a ton of memory.
That's got to be game-changing, especially as we get more and more into these data-heavy AI applications.
Definitely. Really clever way to make these models more practical.
For sure. Okay, we've talked a lot about the technical stuff, the training, all that. But what about the real world? What kind of impact could Jina CLIP v2 have on how we, like, search for things, create things, interact with information in general?
That's the exciting part, right? There are so many possibilities.
I'm thinking search is going to be huge, right?
Yeah.
Like imagine being able to search with text, images, even audio all at once.
Yeah, it's not just finding info, it's about understanding it, Like we learn through multiple senses, not just reading text.
Right. We look at images, hear sounds, experience the world.
Exactly. Jina CLIP v2 brings that to AI, this multimodal understanding.
It's like we're finally teaching AI to like speak our language, the language of like all these senses.
Yeah, and when you break down those walls between like text and images and sound, so much becomes possible.
Give me an example.
Okay, imagine a student, right? They're researching a historical event. Instead of just reading about it, they can search for images, videos, documents, all using one query.
Wow. That would change education for sure, make it way more engaging.
Totally. And it's not just education. Think about research, journalism, anything where you need to understand info from lots of different sources.
You mentioned audio earlier. Think models like Jina CLIP v2 could handle audio someday.
Oh, absolutely. We're already seeing research on that, multimodal models with audio, plus all the progress in natural language processing. AI is getting so much better at understanding spoken language.
Okay, so let's say we're in that future. We can search with text, images, audio. What would that even look like?
Imagine describing a movie scene you barely remember. Hum a song that's stuck in your head, and boom, you find it.
That's wild.
Or think about shopping. You take a picture of like a chair you love and say, I want this, but in blue, and the search engine gets it.
That sounds like magic, but it's actually like real science, real AI progress. Jina CLIP v2 is proof.
Yeah, and let's not forget creativity. Imagine artists using this to get ideas, inspiration, even collaborate with AI to make new art forms.
It's blurring the lines between human creativity and AI.
Totally. Exciting times.
Before we wrap up, got to give props to the researchers who made Jina CLIP v2. They did amazing work.
For sure. Not only made a powerful model, but they're also super open about their research, sharing code and data with everyone.
That's so important, that transparency and collaboration.
It is. Makes these technologies more accessible, which leads to more innovation.
Okay, so as we end this deep dive into Jina CLIP v2, we hope you learned a lot about this model, how it can change the world.
We looked at how it works, how well it performs, what it means for search, creativity, how we interact with information.
We hope we made you curious, got you excited about the world of AI.
It's a field full of challenges, sure, but also so many opportunities. Can't wait to see what happens next.
So keep exploring, keep asking questions, keep learning. There's so much knowledge out there. And with tools like Jina CLIP v2, we're in a better position than ever to, explore it all.
Totally.
Until next time.